passed about, I guess he passed about 10 years ago now. But he was 70 something. And
most of y'all,
uh-huh.
most of y'all living long lives.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you something. Now and then too, we went out there and built that church.
Mm.
I'm talking about the country church.
Okay.
And Joe, my brother Fred, he went out there. They went out there, and they built on one side of it, and then they built on the other side. Because people didn't have too much money out there, and they had, and I can show you, it's a beautiful little church, and I'm talking about it's beautiful inside nowadays. And then the graveyard is above it on the hill. My parents are buried up there. My grandpa was up there. Grandpa was the first one, I think. It was the family, our family, that they buried up there. And it is steep. I mean, it's steep. It's just right straight up. And but they dug inside that hill to set this church. I mean, well, then they dug out when they built, they added to the church. And then they got in some trouble. Then they dug in that hill, and that hill moved on them. And then they caught the devil out of that. But they got it fixed now, though. And then, I don't know, we built some walls there. And then Fred, he designed that front of that church. And, he designed all of it. And he was, him and three more dudes, it wasn't none of us, but they had a construction company over there off of Buckhannon. And they built a building at 26 in Buckhannon, office building. And I know it's still there. But they were bricklayers, and they got into construction business, and they went on from there. And then Ike, my brother Ike, he was a bricklayer. He got in the brick business right after the war.
Okay.
Before I got home, he had. See, all of us, there was 7 of us in service at one time, man.
Y'all get drafted or?
Oh, yeah, everybody drafted. You know they was drafted in those days.
Yeah.
And, but we had 7 people in service at one time. And my mama got a gold star from President Roosevelt in those days. And she was a gold star mother in Williamson County.
7, you said 7 of y'all?
Yeah. We had 7 in that one time.
Now, where did you go?
I went down South Pacific, but I stayed in Maryland most of the time.
Sheila Watkins, you have a visitor at your office. Sheila Watkins, you have a visitor at your office. Thank you.
No, I stayed in the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland.
Okay.
For over 2 years, 2.5 years. But when we went up there, well, I didn't know where that place was. And when I went in service in 1942, in September, and they carried me to Camp Forest, that's down in Tullahoma. And then they carried us through there. And, black folks were segregated in the Army in those days.
Yeah.
And so they, all day long, or even down to the Sunday, and we had lined up, and you tripped down and took off your clothes, and I never seen so many naked folks in my life. And that, but
Yeah,
you
give me
didn't
all
know where
physical.
your clothes were, because after you went the way around through yonder, they went your way. And then finally, you come back to your clothes, or wherever your clothes were. But then, that Monday night, I could have come back home for 3 weeks to get my business, but I didn't have no business no way. And I didn't want to come back home. And I just kept going, and I went on. And so they got on the train down there and they carried us to Fort Bennett, Georgia. And then the old train was smoking and going on the windows, the down, and when he go around in curves and places, smoke would get in the train, and everything else. But we got to Atlanta, Georgia, and then we got down to Columbus, Georgia. Fort Benning, Columbus, Georgia. That's about 125 miles below Atlanta.
Yeah.
And over near the Alabama line.
Yeah, you got Phoenix City right next to it.
Yeah, but I didn't see that part of it. But we stayed down there, and then when I left, I had to leave Franklin, but they was leaving Nashville by the train loads every day. I'm talking about they was moving out. They were loading them up. But by me having my address in Franklin, they called me from Franklin, and I had to go to Franklin and catch the bus. We had a bus. They had a bus in Franklin, but they was all coming in together. And then when we got down in Fort Benning, I kept thinking that we were gonna be together, But after we got through with all of that, wasn't nobody. They was all coming from everywhere in the South, and so they got mixed up, So when I left there, going to Maryland, I didn't know where I was going because it was secret,
Right.
And but I didn't know nobody on that train. And so it was a guy there on the train, and he worked in Atlanta. He worked around that railroad where they pushed them little wagons and loaded that stuff under the train. I don't know if you know anything about that kind of stuff, but the train, it carried a lot of other stuff under the train too,
Okay.
But anyway, he was talking to some people out there, and the train was making up there in Atlanta, and running back and forwards, and I know they told us to stay in your car because they was making up that train, and because you might get cut off or something else. So they told us you stay in your train car, and they was running back and bumping and knocking and going on. And he told us, some of them, he said, this is Southern Railroad 29. And the first time I saw a diesel engine, and you could smell the diesel, the coal oil seemed like me, it was burning coal oil. But you smell the coal oil burning. And I hadn't been nowhere and I was 20 years old in 1942. And so the train, he told them, he was thinking about every place that the government place, like Fort Benning, in North Carolina and all that. And he kept saying, we're going to stop at one of them places. And said, but if we don't, he said, we're going to be in Washington, D.C. And the next evening, we was in Washington, D.C. And we went all the way through Virginia and South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. I remember all them different places that we went through that night. And I'm sitting here, I don't know nobody on this train. I mean a train load. And so we couldn't go to the dining car,
Right.
and they give you lunches, you know. And then they give you a sack of Bulldozer and tobacco where you could roll your own cigarettes. You know? And but when we got to Maryland, first time I seen the black policeman.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I never seen one before. And he was walking along there with his stick, and the train was crossing Potomac River there. Just before you got to the Potomac River. And everybody was hollering, the black policeman. You know, they was hollering all up and down the train, looking out the window. And because there wasn't no black police, not here in the South. And so, but anyway, once we got there, and then we saw them big new electric train engines sitting out there. Somebody said, they're going to get us, pull us on one of them. And, but they was getting electricity from up above.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they were some bad horses too, buddy. So we had some old train coming up from the what's called. We had two of them old steam engines, and then when they take off, they give a jerk, like kind of like. But them other ones, when they hooked up, we saw them, but we could never know which one got on the end of that. After a while, you know. The thing just went off so easy, and looked like your head was swimming, and you looked over there and you seen it moving, and so and so the man told us. Then he said, y'all going to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Maryland. I had never heard of the place, and. So, and then he said, so we going to Baltimore, and I didn't know that Baltimore and Washington was 35 miles apart.
Close.
I didn't know it was that close. And man, that thing shook out down through there. Ooh-wee. We had a ride. And wasn't too long before he was in Baltimore. And then the dude told us, say, y'all get your duffel bags and stand by your seats and everything. And that thing went on through Baltimore. And then when he passed by the Peakness, that race what they have there.
Yeah.
I seen that track. And then it wasn't long after that. That thing, we got off down there in Aberdeen Proving Ground, at the Proving Ground. And I mean, that was a ride. But that was a stay. And then I'm going to tell you something else that I got into. But I learned how to, I drove a truck. I learned how to drive a truck. And I did that. In basic training, I learned how I got my truck license or permit. They don't call them license, they call them permit. Right. And then but when I got in Proving Ground, then we went through basic training, and then they told us, say, you going to be here? So I said, well, so some of them said, well, you're going to be on KP duty. And
you said KP?
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of them said, I don't want to be on KP. I said, heck, I said, if I ain't going to go overseas, I said, I'll do anything. So, but they called me out in my name, and it scared me to death because I didn't know what was going on because the major wanted to see me. And I went up there, and and I gave him a salute. No, I was scared to death. And he said, I said, Northern, I see why you got your permit to drive, a truck driver. And I drove truck then for delivering food, the supplies and different, we served 6 mess halls there.
That's a lie.
Huh?
That's a lie.
Oh yeah. But we had 2 trucks.
Oh,
And I just drove the truck. I didn't have to do nothing but drive it. I had a corporal on there. He checked the load and everything else. But I had to wash and clean that truck every day.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then I thought we had it made because, see, we were 60 miles from Philadelphia, 35 miles from Baltimore, and then we were New Jersey and then New York City. And we had, New York City was 120 miles. And them trains would get you there, buddy. And so we was in a good place, I thought, because some guys was down in Mississippi, they was catching hell down there.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, my Lord. They were writing us letters back, And I was glad I wasn't down there. But anyway, so then they come down the order that they was going to have if you done, anybody that's done a year or 2 in the state, you're going to have to see overseas duty. And then you're going to have to take the basic training and all that stuff over again. So we went through that, and then the man told us, say, we're going to send y'all to school. So we went to mechanic school and learned how to bowl about them trucks and things. And then I felt like I was in college or somewhere because different ones would come out of classes and we would go in, the next building and all that kind of stuff. And so they told us, said that we're gonna have a assembly company. We're gonna have the first black assembly company in the United States Army. 3119 assembly company. And then and that's what they done. And they had us, because we were learning how to fix trucks and things, but they set up an assembly company outdoors. And we didn't know that they were shipping trucks from the factory, shipping parts overseas and putting them together over there. And they were showing us pictures where the white boys was doing all that kind of work. And then we got a chance to do that. And you set it up outdoors. Wasn't in no building. You just outdoors. And so we done that in fruit and ground. And boy, and then so we got where we could get a truck off the end of the line down there in 36 minutes. We could average
wow,
truck.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for the time.
huh?
Yeah.
And so but that was something then, in those days. And we had the only black company. And then they went down to Atlanta, Georgia, at Fort McPherson. I didn't get to go on that trip. They went down and brought all that equipment back where the white boys were doing that kind of work from McPherson, Georgia. And then we went overseas. That's what we were. And that's what I was. And
Wow. That's
was in that automobile vehicle assembly company.
Wow.
And then I learned how to move tanks too. But we didn't have no, we couldn't use the tank, but we just used them where we could get them up to the line,
Oh, okay.
you know, to the front and stuff. But you know how to operate. You had to operate everything.